Hello, my friends and fellow game developers. Not specifically mono game developers today, game developers as a whole. My name is Chris Whitley, also known as Aristotle Dev, and I wanted to bring you a video to show you a tool that I made recently in regards to a post made by Tyler Glaiel. Hopefully, people watching this are familiar with who Tyler is. Tyler and Edmund McMillen, Edmund creator things like Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac. They're working on a game called MewGenics right now. Um, and Tyler posed this question on Twitter earlier this week. Does anyone here know how to code Visual Studio extensions? I want one where if I hover over a token that is a localization string, it pops up the English language string for it as a tooltip, with the ability to point the extension at a folder containing localization CSVs. So this sounded like a fun challenge to do, and I know how to write Visual Studio extensions. So I reached out to Tyler, talked back and forth on this, and this is what was created for it. CSV translation lookup. Could not come up with a better name. Like literally could not come up with a name for this. So this is a very specialized tool. It's specialized in the sense that it's built around the requirements that Tyler had as I was communicating back and forth about how he wanted the tool to work or the extension to work. So it is specialized to that. However, I do think it's general enough that other developers could benefit from this. So I wanted to kind of show it in action in this video, kind of give a sense of what it does, and maybe it could help someone in their development as well. So this is the GitHub repo. I will link this in the description below. But I think the best way to really show this is to actually show it. So let's open Visual Studio real quick. And we're just going to create a new project. Now this is going to work whether you have a C++ project, a C# project, F#, Visual Basic, whatever. Doesn't matter. The only requirement for this extension to work is that it's open in Visual Studio and that it has a solution level with the solution in the project hierarchy. The solution part is specific to how the extension works, and I'll explain that in just a second. But for now, I'm just going to create a new C# console app. We'll just keep the default name, hit next, .NET 8, let it create. And here we go. Here is our console app. So the reason why it has to be something loaded in Visual Studio with a solution at a solution level is because the extension itself looks for its configuration file as a solution item. So you have to have a solution to have solution items to have the configuration file. But that does mean that this tool is going to work across all projects in the solution, not just for one project individually. If you have multiple projects because of different abstractions in your application, it's going to work across all of them. It's solution level. So to do that, we right click on the solution explorer, go to add new item, and the configuration file needs to be named CSV config.json. And once I add that in there, we'll come over here and I'm just going to put in an empty JSON. I'm not actually going to add anything to it. I'm just going to keep the default configurations, and I'm going to hit save. And when I hit save, you'll see down here in the bottom, it says config file processed. So we know it processed the config file. Now, as far as the configurations you can put, those are all in the GitHub repo. If you go down the README, there's a section here with what a default config would look like with all the options if you specified them, and a description of what each of the configurations options do. You read over those, or you can just keep the defaults, whatever you want to do. So now that we have our config file and the extension is activated based off of that config file, we need to have CSV files with translations that it's going to actually look things up. So as another solution item for now, I'm going to add a new item. And I'm going to call this translations. This can be called whatever you want. I'm just going to call mine translations, but it does have to be a CSV file. So .csv, translations.csv. And in here, when you think about making a CSV file for translations, you might have something where like the first column in your CSV is the key. And then the second column might be whatever your native language is. Mine is English, so I'll put English. And then further columns after that, maybe other languages like French, Dutch. I don't know if that's the abbreviation for Dutch. I'm sorry if it's not. But you would have all your different languages as your headers here. I'm just going to keep English because that's, yeah. And then on the next line, you might have like a keyword, right? So you would have like ability, defend, name as my key. And then the actual value for ability, defend, name in English would be defend. And, you know, for, you would put the French value next, Dutch value, German, Spanish, whatever other languages you include, you would have their translated, the word translated for their language in your CSV file, right? So we have our ability to defend name and the name in English, and then ability defend description, we'll just say DESC, and that could be like defends one player from an incoming attack. There we go. And then we'll hit save. So now you're over here writing your code in your program, making your game. And when you're using translations in your game, you might have something like a string called like defend name equals ability defend name. And then string defend description equals ability defend DESC. So you may do something like this in your game where your actual string values are using the ability to defend name and ability to defend the script DESC, which are your keyword identifiers that you use in your translation file over here, right? So these are your keyword identifiers. And then some logic in your game may take this string and replace those keyword tokens with the actual value based on the language that the user has set in their game. So if it is set to English, it would use the English value, French use the French value, so on and so forth. So as your program grows larger and you have these massive amounts of keyword translations, keywords representing translations in your game, it can be hard to keep up with where all of those are, especially if you have them spread over multiple CSV files, which is what the original issue Tyler was having is. So that's what this extension attempts to solve or provide a solution for. So if I hover over, let's say, ability to defend name, I now have the key, ability to defend name, the value, defend, and a link to open the containing CSV. And if I hover over that, it will give me the path to the CSV file that it's going to open. Now the key, it will always give the key. For the value here where it says defend, this is always going to be the value that is the first language column after the key in your CSV file. So in mine is English. If your native language is French and you had French as the first column, it would show the French, whatever the French translated word would be. So whatever that first column is after the key, that's what's going to show here. So, but from here, and we can look at ability to defend description as well. Here's the ability to defend script, defends one player from an incoming attack, and a link to open the containing CSV. So if we click this link to open the containing CSV, by default, it's going to open it in whatever the default application you have set in Windows to open CSV files is. That might be like Notepad, I think by default. If you've got Excel installed, it might be Excel. Modern CSV, it might open that, VS Code. Whatever you have set at the operating system level to open a CSV file as your default application, that's what it's going to open it in. So if I click that, for me, that's VS Code. So it opens it in VS Code. And so from in here, I can come in here and I can see here's my CSV file, my keys, etc. And let's say I was over here in the program and I saw defends one player for an incoming attack. I really like to edit that and make it so that it actually defends all players from an incoming attack, right? So if I go to that CSV, I can change that from defends one player to defends all players from an incoming attack. I'm going to save that in VS Code. I'm going to come back over to Visual Studio and hover over ability to defend the script again. And you can see now it's updated. Defends all players from an incoming attack. So it hot reloads if you change the CSV files. So you don't have to worry about like closing and reopening Visual Studio or the project to refresh that as you change it in the CSV files. So yeah, that's what this extension is. That's what this extension does. It allows you to take keywords that you would have in your translation CSV files. The keywords have to be in the first column of your CSV file. But it takes whatever those keywords are, it parses them, it gets whatever the value of that keyword is based off of the next column of the keyword. And then anywhere in your code where you have that keyword typed, when you hover over it, it will give you those values and a link to open that CSV for quick access to edit it, which is super helpful if you have multiple translations across multiple CSVs and it's hard to keep track of where what is what. This points you in the right direction. And it's more than just code files. It doesn't have to just be codes or strings in your code file. So if I had, let's take ability to defend description and copy that. If I had a comment here, and in the comment, I had ability to defend description. When I hover over that, I get the same thing right here in ability to defend description. If I were to add a new item to my project, let's add a new item. And this item we're adding is like a completely custom format. I think Tyler uses the Glaiel object notation, the GON files. So if we had a whatever.gon file, right? He uses gon files. Let's delete all this. So this is the gon file. And in here, he might have ability to defend description in here. If I hover over that, it works in the gon file too. It's going to work in any text file inside of any project in your solution. If it detects that keyword when you hover over it, you will get the quick info tooltip with the information about the translation as well as the link to open in a CSV. So that's it. That's the tool. This is I think it's a pretty cool tool. Something Tyler asked for and something I could deliver on. Hope other game developers can find this helpful. I will continue developing this tool based on feedback. As it is right now, I'm keeping the version of it super low. It's at 0.0.3. I'm keeping the version low because I would like more people to use it, to give more feedback if you find any issues with it, any bugs, any problems, any additional features you think should be added that would make sense for this. Please let me know. You can let me know in the GitHub repo. You can let me know on Twitter. If you find this useful, let me know that as well. It's always nice to know that people find this useful. But with that out of the way, I hope you all have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, whatever time of day it is. And I'm out. Later.